What's up, this is Jake and Kristen with Hike 734, and today we're hiking to Mirror Lake in the northwest corner of Rocky Mountain National Park. We started out over at the Corral Creek trailhead and then dropped down across a bunch of creeks and rivers and worked our way all the way up to Mirror Lake, and then turned around and came back. And yeah, we started out over at the Corral Creek trailhead and then followed down the Corral Creek, and yeah, it was just really pretty, nice, cool morning. And I'm hiking this again because the year after I hiked it the first time, a big fire came through, and so yeah, it was just interesting to see the differences as we worked our way down along the very playful creek that chatters down into the valley below there. And yeah, we could just see some of the burn, but a lot of the trees right along the trail actually remained fairly unscathed until we started leaving the creek itself, and then we went through a really very burned section. But eventually we started working our way down and came alongside the Laputa Pass Creek. And in this area, there's definitely a lot more green, and it was really nice. And then we ended up crossing over the creek, and that's where we entered into the actual national park. And so yeah, and from there the trail just kind of walks along the Cache Laputa River, and just a really nice, pretty flat area. And here was just kind of a mix of burned and unburned forest, as we just came to some really pretty overlooks of that. And eventually came to a trail junction, and we stayed left to cross over the river itself. And yeah, just from there, just kind of worked our way past the campground. And then, yeah, it was really interesting because the trail on one side was green and the other side was just all burnt. But yeah, we ended up coming alongside Hague Creek there and just worked our way up along Hague Creek until we popped up into the Hague Creek drainage there. And there's just a really beautiful meadow there, and you can see just from below that both ridges on either side just got completely burned. And our trail skirted on the end of that meadow, and then from there, then it just started working up. It's a bruiser, and it just works all steep as we climbed about 800 feet on this ridge. And the good news, bad news of the burn is, the good news is there's a lot more views. It was awesome to go ahead and hike along this and just be able to see the down into that valley below with its just really pretty meadows where Hague Creek just kind of meanders slowly. Along the way, we heard some elk bugling down below, which got us excited. And then we ended up smelling some and then seeing them. And so it was really cool just to go ahead and see some of them just jogging through this burned forest. As we got up higher, there's some little pocket pond wet areas, and we just as we were passing by one of them, saw 4 mule deer. So it was really fun to see some of these bigger animals in the park. And yeah, so from there we just kind of continued on and finally made it all the way to the top of the ridge, and it just worked our way along that as it just kind of gently went up and down, and we started to see a little bit more green again. And then from there we just kind of dropped down to the trail junction with Mummy Pass, and that is still closed because they're still doing some trail rehab work on that. And we made a left and started working our way around Comanche Peak. And we started off by dropping down, and it starts out kind of a mix of burned and unburned, but gradually as we went further along, it just kind of gets to be all just unburned forest. And since I had done this a while before, throughout this hike, I'm just showing some flowers that occurred in early August. But then I'm doing this in the middle of September, so you get to kind of see the difference between the fall colors and more of the summer flowers. But regardless, just lots of pretty. And eventually, just after a while of kind of dropping down and then working up and around, it finally comes into the Cascade Creek drainage with really pretty meadows. And you can see Cascade Creek. You can actually see a little cascade, which is fun. But eventually we worked our way around that and looked up into that drainage and just, started climbing, just getting a little bit more out of us as we worked our way up through really cool rock formations and really cool draws. And eventually we worked our way all the way up to Mirror Lake, which is just this beautiful lake with, man, just the walls on the opposite side are just towering and just wonderful structures. So yeah, it was just really sweet to go ahead and just spend some time there. And every once in a while, it would calm down just enough to go ahead and get some mirror action going on there. But yeah, overall, just it's such a great hike. It's definitely a big one, just from the standpoint of being at elevation and then getting a lot of elevation gain. But yeah, lots of birds, lots of wildflowers, great chance to see some big game, and then obviously a beautiful lake at the end is just a great payoff. For a hike that's almost 13 miles. And anyways, this is Jake and Kristen with Hike 734 hiking to Mirror Lake in Rocky Mountain National Park.
If you like this video, make sure you subscribe on YouTube and head on over to hike734.com for more goodness.